Does it revolutionize the game? No. Is it a nice little addition? Yes. Hi everyone, welcome to another Broken Meeple Beyond the Base Game review, and today this is a very small expansion, so hopefully a quick video for some of you with short attention spans there. But we're going over an expansion which has just appeared on Kickstarter. Sinister Fish Games, who put out this lovely little drafting game called Villagers, and I believe last year or the year before, I think it was the year before actually, I've now brought out a small card expansion for it. Now, it comes in a box bigger than this, so don't worry guys. This was essentially an advanced review copy of the game that I was given, but all the content is in here, all the rules are online. This is essentially the finished product. Maybe like the card quality is slightly lesser than you'll get in the real version. Big deal. At least all the cards are present. So it's a modular expansion for Villagers, which was a light drafting game. You essentially were building up, well, funny enough, a village full of villagers that were all these various characters with different iconography on them. And the idea was that you were building up production chains. So you needed to get the starting part of a production chain, like say the lumberjack, and then from there you could build like a ship builder, you could build a blacksmith with the iron person. You know what I mean. You're basically trying to go through these different chains from start to finish, which gets you money, which is victory points, and you just carried on in that fashion until the game ends, and you got to see all these different production trees, effectively, of what you created. It was a nice little game. I've still got it in my collection. I've got a Kickstarter version here with the coin chest with very nice wooden coin pieces in it. In fact, you can use these for other games. It's very useful. In fact, try using these for Majesty on the Realm if you get a chance. I do recommend that. So let's take the three easy additions first, like the really, really easy additions. First up, you have got a new suit. So previously you had, as I said, you've got the lumberjacks, the greens, you had the blacksmiths and that, who are the like black suit. There was a couple of ones like wool that were blue. What was the purple one? That was like a haymaker. There were some various production chains. But now you've got clay. Starting with a clayman and going on to things like brick burner, bricklayers, ceramist, oven makers, potters, tile layers, tile makers. Basically, it's the grey suit with clay. Now, okay, fine. There's nothing in these that are particularly like revolutionary in terms of rules. They get you money. You can unlock different cards with them for extra money. There's points for every brick you've got. They give you gold icons. They function pretty much identically to all the other suits you have seen so far. Pretty much all this does is introduces a little bit more variety and extends the game length a little bit, which I'm not as keen on. I'm not sure I want to have the game length extended beyond what it already was, because I felt it was already kind of at the peak of how long I wanted it to be. But if you're interested in a little bit more variety, then by all means just throw these cards in and now you've got more suits to play with. Then another small addition are these builder and harvest teams. There's only about 5 of them in here, and essentially these are kind of like what I like to call the emergency card. Basically, when before you could trade in a villager from your hand in order to get one of the basic villagers, well, here you can now trade in 2 villagers to pick up one of these teams. The teams can be whichever side you like. One side's got a builder on it and one side's got a food icon on it. And essentially it's like, well, what am I short on at the moment? I've got some spare cards. I don't really need these 2 for anything. I could really use more builder icons. Well, fine, I'll go grab myself a builder team, shove it as a solitary villager in my village, and now I've got another builder icon. Of course, giving up 2 cards could potentially be a bad thing if you're trying to save some up for later on, and you can only have 1 team in your possession, so you have to choose these wisely. But yeah, it's essentially an emergency backup in case you're really struggling for particular symbols, but very easy. You just throw them in, nothing to it really. And then the last sort of very easy addition are these new special cards. There's only 1 of each because they're a bit more powerful than the previous ones. Tent maker, merchant, leader, jack of trades, inventor, forager, and engineer. And they function exactly the same as the other special villagers. They have a special effect that goes off when you play it. Some of them get discarded, some of them hang around, some of them go on top of production chains. You know, they've got various effects here. So the leader, for example, you get rid of him and you get to take 3 basic villagers. That's pretty sweet. Let's see, the forager. In the draft phase, you've got 2 extra draft actions in the round. Pretty powerful. Jacko Trades can be used as the first villager in any 2 production chains. That's pretty powerful. As I say, all of these are pretty powerful effects, in the sense that you've only got one of each, so essentially they're going to get like sought after when they start appearing. But you just throw these in and they function just like other special characters. Great, little bit of extra variety if you need it. So those three things are pretty much the throw into every game that you can think of. You know, with the possible exception of the clay makers, depending on whether you want to extend the game length a bit. Here's the two bits that are a little bit more interesting now, at least in my opinion. First up, probably my favourite aspect of this expansion is the events. You've got some, based on the seasons, I mean it is called shifting seasons for a reason, we had to get to that point, but summer, winter, spring, autumn, there are 3 events in each. In the stacks that you have laid out, where they don't have a market card underneath, you lay one of these events from each season in order. So I forget which order they start and go in, but basically one for each season. So you would shuffle the 3 autumn and then pick this one randomly, and then same for spring, summer and winter. And these are revealed face up before the game starts, so you actually know what's coming up. And they just do some cool things, like they're all positive, they're not negative. So this is not a take that type of expansion, which is good. I don't think the game needs any of that. But for example, the nobles. Add 5 gold to all villagers on the road. Okay, so suddenly the village gets filled up with the road gets filled up with a ton of money that everybody wants to nick. Let's take one from each. The winter, so pilgrims. All players in order can look through the discard pile and build a villager. Handy if the one that you wanted got nicked all of a sudden. Let's take a spring one. Returnees. Look through a stack, take 1 villager to your hand and shuffle and return the stack. Handy to get something that you're looking for. And let's take the merchants from autumn. Score a production chain, including both branches. So they basically just do little things, positive for everybody, but because you know they're coming, you can prepare for them. So it's not like what I was afraid of at first when I heard about these, that, oh, they're face down and it's just random, because that could mean, well, somebody who just conveniently has the right setup suddenly ends up with a bucket ton of money. No, you know it's coming up. So if, for example, the caravans here, score all silver symbols in your village. Well, if you know that event's coming up, you might want to stock up on a few silver symbols. If you don't, well, that's your fault. You know, you've decided to ignore it, or you just weren't getting the cards for it. So these are neat. I wish there was maybe more than 3 for each stack. That does seem a little bit limiting, but you know, this is on Kickstarter, so maybe we'll get more on the stretch goals. But you know, you are going to get a lot of different combinations, considering you can only have 1 from each stack of 3. So when you've got the 4 laid out, it is going to lead to some interesting combinations and will give a little bit of extra replay value. I just hope that maybe we get a few more events in each stack just to really up that amount. And then finally, the Monastery. 2 cards? Really? Yeah, well, you know, it's not a full-blown solo mode in the sense. The solo mode in Villagers originally was the Countess. Not the biggest fan of that mode, I must admit, because it was fairly simple to operate, but my god was it punishing. So punishing. You basically revealed a card for the Countess and they basically got it and scored it, which is great when they flip a tiny little villager that gets them, like, you know, a little orphan child that gets them 2 money or something. It's a bit different when they get like a glass blower and suddenly they get 30 points just for luck of the flip. You know, that was a little bit annoying and I didn't really play that mode very often. Instead though, you now have the Monastery Solo Mode, which is meant to be a much more relaxed way of playing this solo, and for pretty much just functions entirely like a 2-player game that you're playing by yourself. All you do is set up a 2-player game, and you have these 2 cards here which just dictate, you know, they just allow you to track the turn order as well as a drafting priority order. This is kind of the crux of the solo mode. What happens is, for the most part, the Monastery doesn't participate in the game. And you're just doing your own thing, building your villages and trying to get the most points. There will eventually be a target that you reach, but at the moment, at the time of getting this copy, it was basically just beat your own high score. I wish that maybe there was a bit more of a criteria to, you know, to achieve, but as I say, this is meant to be a more relaxed way of playing the game. But what you essentially do is every time you draft a villager in the draft phase, you have to discard a villager from the road and you have to do it in order of priority based on this card. So in turn 1, you start off chucking away all the builders and then the foods and then the copper coins and then the gold coins and then the silver coins in that order, depending on what's out in the road. But then when we get to turn 2, you then start off with the builders and the food, but then you chuck away gold coins next. And then by the time you're at turn 4+, you don't care about the builders and food, you're chucking away silver and gold and, you know, the bronze coin cards. And that's essentially it. Every time you draft a villager, you got to get rid of a card. So you know what priority it's going to go for. You can see the villagers that are out there on the road. You decide, well, I fancy grabbing this boat builder. Oh, wait a minute. If I grab the boat builder, then it's going to discard that one, and I really wanted that for this side of the protection chain. Can I deal with this one later? Or maybe I should grab that one so that it discards this one instead. You know, very simple choices, but you know, you get something to do. It's not just a complete, you know, a cakewalk in a sense. But rather than having a complex AI, you just have that very simple mechanic of discarding a card in the draft phase, and that's literally it. I mean, like I said, it comes with 2 cards. That's it. So this is like the most sparse production for a solo mode I've ever seen. Just 2 little cards there. But it does work quite well if you're into that sort of thing. For me, I don't think that I'm going to be necessarily using it that often. You know, I'd rather play this multiplayer with 2 or 3 players. That's my favourite way to play villagers. Not with 4 or 5, I find it goes a bit long. But it's a nice way to play it solo if you want to play it solo, because I think the Countess just punched you in the face way too much. This one, though, is just a nice, relaxing game of villagers. So it's going to come in a bigger box, but you're probably wondering, will it fit in this box? And they do answer this on the Kickstarter page. I have sleeved my cards, so it's a little bit on the tight side in here. And I've got the coin chest. If you haven't sleeved your cards, you should be able to fit this in the box. I've already tried it. I sort of took the sleeves off, tried to put the cards in. It's like, okay, fits no problem with the coin chest. But it's a drafting game. I like to sleeve my cards. So if you have sleeved, you're gonna struggle to fit these sleeved in here as well. You might have to consider the fact that with possibly extra stretch goal stuff that you get, you're gonna have to get rid of this. Well, when I say get rid of, you know, just put it aside. So if you have all this space in the box, you'll easily be able to fit the expansion in here, but it does mean that you're going to have to, you know, cart this around separately. And they do say you are meant to use this with other games, but that's a slight negative. I kind of wish that it would have all fit in the same box. You know, I'm a little bit like 50-50 on this box design in general. You know, the idea that it's a nice small box, but I pretty much have to squeeze it into whatever cubby hole I can find in there. And of course, doesn't allow for a lot of expansion content. But as I say, that's neither here nor there, but at least you're aware. So, shifting seasons for villagers. Does it revolutionize the game? No. Is it a nice little addition? Yes. It really is a case of, are you a fan of villagers and you want a little bit of extra content just to spice it up a bit after maybe it's sat on your shelf for a while? Then go for it. I think it's like £13 plus delivery on the Kickstarter, so it's not particularly expensive, and you do get a nice bit of extra variety, which I would say you could teach with the game. None of this was complicated. Was any of that complicated? Oh, not, otherwise I explained it badly. But the events are nice and easy, the builder teams are easy, the specials, I'd say you could throw them in. I mean, if you're using normal specials, I don't see why you could use these. The solo mode is a separate deal, and you don't have to use this extra clay suit. And even if you did, there's no special rules with the clay suit, it's just throw them in, so they function just like the other suits. So, a very easy addition, one that you could just throw in and not even remember it was an expansion in the first place. So it's not going to change your opinion on villagers in general. I mean, if you didn't like villagers to begin with, this isn't going to suddenly like change your mind on it. You'll still probably not like the game because the fundamental mechanics have not changed one bit. So overall, the expansion for me gets an honest 7 out of 10. A seal of endorsement. It's a nice little expansion. It does what it says on the tin. Cheap, bolsters the game, doesn't add too much complexity, and is pretty much a near auto-include if you're used to the rules of the base game anyway. If you want to check out the Kickstarter and see for yourself, then by all means, the link will be in the description so you can check out their campaign page. That's it for me on this episode. If you like what you see, then please consider leaving a thumbs up. It means the world to me to know you appreciate the content. And don't forget that this video and channel is sponsored by Zatu.co.uk. If this game, maybe you want to find the old copy of Villagers or anything else on my channel has taken your fancy, then use my code in the description for 5% discount off your entire basket of games. Save yourself some money in this time where everything is a lot more expensive these days. That's it for me. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and remember, it's only a game. Bye for now.